Hey there YouTube, today I'm going to be working on my 2000 Jeep Grand Cherokee with the 4.7 liter V8 right here. It's a really fun car, but it has developed some stuttering, some issues with fuel, and today I'm going to try to fix it. The car has left me stranded a couple of times, one time on a bridge that required a tow truck to push me over like a mile. And yeah, I'm kind of tired of having a car here that I can't use. So today I'm going to take you on this journey to diagnose the fuel issue. I'll explain to you a little bit of what I know so far and what I'm going to do. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to show you is that it does actually start up. So I'm going to start it up. And so you can see here it's running. What you cannot see is the shaking that's happening in the car. It's kind of trembling a little bit, and if I accelerate, it doesn't work well. And if you see down here at the in the exhaust, you can see some white smoke, right? So one of the first things that started happening with this car, let me shut it down here, was that it gave me some codes about fuel injectors. It's running too lean. So I have a scanner here, which I'm going to show you here, the fuel trim levels really quickly so you can see what I mean. Okay, so I'm going to show you here the short-term fuel trim ratios. And as you can see here, it's really trying to compensate for, I think, a rich fuel. So I might have a stuck fuel injector or something. My feeling is that there is a fuel injector or two that are stuck open or leaking or not even working at all, and the computer is trying to compensate for the either too much fuel going in and then leaning it out, or too little fuel going in and then overcompensating with more fuel in some of the other injectors. So that's where I'm at right now. At this point, I realize that I have no idea what I'm saying, and I'm contradicting myself, obviously. But let's continue anyway and see where we end up. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually change the injectors. I bought a set of 8 from eBay. I'm also going to change all the spark plugs, because I'm assuming that with all the extra fuel or lack of fuel, the spark plugs in there are kind of shot. And also, I think when I'm in there, I can already do it since the car has 150,000 miles. So I found an amazing video by somebody else on YouTube here, which I'm very grateful for, where he actually goes through the process of replacing the injectors in detail. So I'm gonna put the link to that other video on the bottom. I'm not gonna go into depth too much in this video of what I had to do to take this off, because he did such an amazing job that I just want him to get the credit for putting together the steps. I'm just going to be applying the steps from that video in my repair here, and hopefully this is the issue. So one more thing I'm going to say is I've checked the oil. The oil doesn't have any water in it. It's nice. I've also checked the coolant. It's not bubbling. There's coolant there, so there's not a blown head gasket as far as I can tell. And like I said, when I was running this car the last time correctly, it was giving me fuel injector issues, and none of the clips really clip in very well. So it might even be a connectivity issue, but I tried playing with it. I disconnected it, and as you can see, as you saw earlier in the video, it did detect that I disconnected this injector. So I just feel like these injectors, there's something wrong with them. Somewhere here there's either a stuck one, or either stuck open or stuck closed. So I'm gonna just go through the process of replacing them. You know, I'm not gonna get my oscilloscope out. I'm not gonna do any tests or anything like that, because I don't have honestly, I've never done this before. So I think the steps of replacing all the injectors is just much faster. But of course, having said that, I might go through this entire process replacing the spark plugs and the injectors and realize that, and then once I turn it back on, I'm back in the same place. But then again, at that point I've only spent about $100 or $200 worth of parts. I'll have new injectors in there, new spark plugs, and if I do get stuck to the point where I have to take it to a mechanic so that somebody with real experience can go through this and find out what the real issue is, then we'll go through that step when we get there. But for now, let's just try the brute force approach by just replacing all the injectors, since that was what the computer was telling me earlier, and see what happens. All right, so here's something interesting that just happened. So I was following the instructions. The first step on the other video was to remove the fuel pump relay here. So I removed that fuel pump relay, and then I started the engine, because the goal there was to empty out any fuel inside the rails here as much as possible, so that there's less fuel pressure in the system, to get rid of the fuel pressure. And what happened was the car barely started. So I started it up, and it went, and it died almost immediately. And then I cranked it a couple more times to just kind of try to see if I could get some more of the fuel pressure released. And you know, when the person in the other video did it, the engine had enough pressure in the fuel lines for it to actually run for like a few seconds, maybe 5-6 seconds, before all the pressure was released. So given that this one barely made it, not even 1 second up and running, my thought there is that the fuel pump pressure died off right away when I turned off the car initially, and there was no pressure left in the line, which is starting to look like either there's a leak in the fuel system somewhere, or the leak is one of the injectors that is stuck open. So I'm gonna go with the fuel injector stuck open hypothesis, given that the computer did complain about fuel injectors before, and that it is what I'm gonna do. So let's hope that the fuel injector is the problem, since I'm about to take everything off here and the fuel rails off. So yeah, looking good. By the way, I apologize for the lawnmower sounds in the background. If you hear that, I have no control over that, but you know, I just wanted to share that little learning right now that I had. Okay, so this is mostly for me, but I'm removing this a vacuum line from back here. This one goes in here, so I'm gonna move this out of the way. This one out of the way. This vacuum line came from the airbox, so I'm gonna move that out of the way there so that it doesn't get in my way. Now the connectors, I'm gonna remove the connectors from all the coils right there. Then the last one is back here. Okay, so that's out of the way. This one, can I remove this one? Yeah, it looks like I can remove that one out of there too. So I'm gonna move this one back there so that it's out of the way. And now I can also remove this one. The goal is I gotta get this fuel line out of there, so that's what I'm gonna do. This is the brake booster vacuum right here. So now what's next is I gotta remove the connectors from all the injectors. Now what I'm seeing is that the clips are broken. So that's the first one. This one right here, is this broken? Okay, I'm gonna stop recording, and okay, so this can get out of the way already. Okay, that's easier to see what's happening here. So then yeah, I'm not sure what happened here in the past, but I'm gonna stop recording and try to do this without breaking anything. Okay, so here's where we're at with the driver side of things. So I went ahead and unplugged these actuators, these sensors, and everything else here, including the fuel injectors. You can see here the injectors are all disconnected. The fuel line is still connected because I want to release the pressure from the Schrader valve on the other side. But what I'm seeing so far is that, you know, the past 24 years, somebody else has been here and they broke off all the clips that hold the injectors in place, or at least the clips that allow me to easily remove it. The clips that hold it in place are still there, but the back part that releases it is broken off. So I had to use a screwdriver to push it in so that it lifts off the clip, where the retention clip, and then I was able to pull it out. So it wasn't too hard at all. It's just a matter of I lucked out because the first one that I took out allowed me to figure out how to do that. But yeah, so far this side it's all clear, with the exception of the fuel line that goes up to the rail. So yeah, now I'm gonna work on the other side. Okay, so the passenger side was actually a piece of cake. So I took off the battery here so that I have more space to work in. And the one thing to watch out, and the other YouTuber also recommended to watch out for this one, is this line right here that goes all the way to the back somewhere. I don't want to mess with that one too much, so I decided to leave it alone. Just got to be very careful with that one so we don't damage it and create a much more serious problem for us to fix. If we disconnect it back there somewhere, wherever that is, I have no idea. Maybe it's something simple, but I don't want to find out. Anyway, back to what we're doing. All these connectors came out super easy. On this side of things, the injectors the connectors were in much better shape. As you can see here, they're completely well together, except for the one at the very end over there, which was kind of loose. But again, I wasn't getting, I don't know, the injector situation in this car is turning out to be a little bit more shady than I expected, with all these loose connectors and everything. So we'll just continue. The next step for me is to remove all of the coils. So it's just, I think it's a 10 millimeter or an 8 millimeter on top, and get those out of the way. Clear out the debris and the channels there, because there are some leaves and things that I don't want to land inside the engine. And I took off the cap from the Schrader valve, this little guy, which is, let me zoom in so you can take a better look. It's right there. This is the fuel rail, and the Schrader valve is, let me tap on it so you can see, there you go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some kind of, when the engine cools down completely, because I had it running, I don't want to cause a fire and then have the whole thing burn down. But when it cools down completely, I will release any additional pressure by just pressing that little Schrader valve like you do in a tire, and then I'll be able to remove 2 8 millimeter bolts so that I can then pull out the fuel rail. So let me see here. Those bolts appear to be, one is there. You see that one right there? And I'm assuming the other side has the same exact thing. So I remove those bolts, and then I should be able to pull it out once I make clearance by removing the coils. So let me get the coils out of the way, and I'll probably use that time to change the spark plugs. Alright, so here's a couple of observations while taking out these coils, right? So they're a little bit hard to get out because you cannot rotate them because of the position of the screw. So they go like this onto the spark plug, and they sit on this, so there's no rotation. So to get them out, you'd really need to pull straight up, either from here or from here. Don't pull up on the connector, because you might rip off the connector. You need to have a pulling action upwards. If you really need to, you can put some leverage underneath this part over here on the left hand side, so you can pull straight up. Okay, so that's one thing. In this particular car, on the second stud here, there's this, what appears to be some kind of temperature sensor or something. So this goes there, and then you put the nut on there. And in the back and the rear one, there's that ground connector here. Let me see if I can reach it out correctly here. This ground that goes onto that right there, where the coil goes into. So just not only for myself, but anybody else working on these engines, to not forget those things. All right, so I am halfway there. I managed to get the fuel rail out and replace the spark plugs. Here's the fuel rail. So even though I tried to not make a mess with the fuel, I ended up making a mess. I put fuel on that, I put fuel here, I dumped some fuel there. Yeah, it's really easy to dump fuel. But I did end up getting some in the fuel can, so it wasn't a total waste of effort. But let me show you. This is one of the injectors that I took out of there. Chrysler emblem on there. These must be the original, maybe, I don't know. It's very likely that they are the original ones, although I see a lot of things all over this car that made me think that there was some work done over the years here too. Maybe this entire wiring harness has been replaced, and stuff happened there that was replaced because all those markings. I don't know if that's stock, but let me show you here the spark plugs. This is on the passenger side, so you can see here they look okay. These look fine. I think they're burning okay there. On this side though, on the driver's side, that looks maybe a little bit lean. This one really smelled like fuel, really dark. Second one, and these two were, the third one is a really dark too, kind of gunked up, and the last one was okay. So this side over here, totally different than the other side. The other side was very consistent, so you can see here they all kind of look the same, and the coils look fine, with the exception of this one, which was all the way in the back here, which looked like it was kind of overheated a little bit. But I don't have any coil codes, so that's going to go back in. And that's it. Now I'm going to replace these fuel injectors with the new ones and put this back into the car. Alright, so here I am. I just removed the old injectors from the fuel rail, and now I have the new ones here, so you can see here. And I'm gonna get a little bit of oil, put it here so that it goes in there smoothly, and then these go in there like that. So I'm gonna do that really quickly, and then I'll show you the result. Alright, so it's the next day, and I want to do a little recap of what I've done so far. I was able to put the new injectors in the rails, as you can see there. They're installed, and I was able to put back the fuel line. I also screwed in the 4 screws that hold the rail in place. So what I'm gonna do right now is I've installed the battery back on. I've installed the fuel relay back on, and before I do anything else, I'm gonna turn on the ignition to pressurize the fuel line and see if I have any leaks. If I have any leaks, obviously I have to see how I fix that and go from there. So let me go ahead and do that. Okay, so I went ahead and the ignition is on right now, and there are definitely no leaks anywhere. I looked through all the injector ports as well as the connection right here, and everything looks like it's seated correctly. So I'm gonna go ahead and make sure that my spark plugs are properly seated, and start assembling back with the the coils and then all the connectors going back before I crank it. Alright, so here I am, yet another day has passed, and I went ahead this morning and finished installing everything. I tightened all the spark plugs, put in all the connectors back in their places. I'm still not happy with how loose the injector connectors are, but I don't know what I'm going to do about that, because if I were to change those, it would be a lot of work with soldering, and anyway, that's a different project altogether. First is verifying that this actually works and that the injectors are running. So, you know that a few minutes ago I showed you how I tested the fuel pressure. Well, it turns out that there was no fuel pressure, because I played with the Schrader valve over there, and I saw that there was no pressure buildup. And I read online that in order to turn on the fuel pump, the ECM, the computer, has to trigger the relay. And I'm assuming that because all these things were disconnected, some condition was not satisfied, and the fuel pump wasn't turning on. It could also be that I have a faulty fuel pump and I didn't really need to do any of this stuff, but let's hope that that's not the case again, because I went through the process of doing this. So I'm about to turn on the key and see if the fuel pump runs, and then crank it. So let's see how it goes. Alright, moment of truth. I already had put it on. I didn't see any fuel leaks, so let me crank it and see if it turns on. Oh, that's good. It started right up. And it's idling. So let's go take a look. There's this. Oh, that sounds really nice right now. Alright, so I'm going to let it run a little bit. That sounds really good. Oh, that is nice. A little bit of a tremble, so I don't know what that's all about, but maybe I'll let me accelerate a little bit and see what happens. It has that big vacuum leak up there, but oh wow, that feels so much better. Oh, it's trembling like crazy. Oh crap. It is not happy. It is not happy still. I saw a bunch of white smoke in the back. Let me actually put on the air filter box and the intake to close off any vacuum problems, and then see if I can do a little quick drive around the block to see how it feels. Alright, so I just came back from a test drive and the problem is not fixed. So the car definitely feels a lot better. It's very smooth, but the engine does not want to go past about 1900 RPM or 1800 RPM. It starts to choke. So what I think might be happening here is maybe I have a bad fuel pump. Maybe there's some issue with the fuel pump and pressure is not as high as it should. So I think I'm gonna have to do some fuel pressure checks and see what that leads me to. I also felt like maybe there was a vacuum leak somewhere and the transmission wasn't shifting to third. So maybe that's a possible issue as well. There's so many things wrong with this thing right now. I just wanted to get it running and see how far I can get before I have to take it to a mechanic, because it's turning out to be a bigger project than I thought. And if I do have a fuel pump problem, that's definitely a job that I'm not probably going to do. Probably going to take that to a mechanic so they can do it. So we'll see how it goes. All right. Thanks for watching. If you have any comments or any suggestions for me to try here to get this thing up and running, please let me know below. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just following other amazing YouTubers that have done the work already and gave me some amazing tips. And yeah, it does feel really smooth, but it just chokes if I accelerate. So any tips, any advice, or anything that I've done wrong here, or anything that I could be doing better next time, just let me know in the comments, and I'll really appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.